and welcome to Boss Battle Round 8. I am your host, Goron1988, and I am here with Inquisitor Cat. Well, welcome, Cat. And we're going to discuss the battle that we're going to. Oh, sorry, one second. But yeah, the battle that we're going to be looking at today is Goma versus Valvagia. Definitely a very interesting matchup. I'm pumped. What about you, Kat?
Yeah, during the reveal, I did say that I totally see this one of those cool yard argument fights.
Yeah, yeah. Good. So, let's just go through it. I mean, Goma, Health C, Power C, Intelligence A, Mobility A, Minions D, Venom D, Blind Sense B. Talked about this so much during the reveal because I was so pumped about it, but that main thing is it's not how strong the abilities are. It's Goma's intelligence that matters, and that intelligence A is very good and can be used. You know, all these abilities will be used to their utmost potential, and we're gonna see some good uses here tonight.
And especially if looking back on the previous fights that have happened, the intelligence that has proven to be very important.
Yes, indeed, very important. I can't see that many fights where the intelligence stat hasn't actually been one of the determining factors in our matchups here. The second boss we've got is Volvagia. Health C, Power D, Intelligence B, Mobility S, Flame Breath B, Fire Affinity B. I mean, very powerful Flame Breath there, effectively. Good intelligence, great mobility. Volvagia will be a great contender for Goma, and of course, vice versa. Um, I'm not envying either one of them for this fight. What about you?
Yeah, it is not a definite easy matchup for either.
Definitely. Well, we've already discussed this before, just to make sure that we're on the same page here. Everything is as standard, so it will be half the Deku tree in which Goma is residing, and then the other half of this spliced up world will be Volvagia's chambers, effectively. And yeah, they're just going to effectively teleport into one another, as is standard. Is there anything else we want to say about this battle?
I think that is everything important.
Mm. Yeah, it should definitely be everything important. Now, for this, two things before we start. The first thing is there's both of us here. So, who wants to be Goma and who wants to be Volvagia in this fight?
Well, I do have to say that since one of us has to be one and the other one has to be the other, my nature is much to do with war of attrition and ambushes. So
So, you're going to be Goma in this fight? Fair enough.
yeah, even though I have hatred of arachnids, but it's just way too fitting otherwise.
Mm. Okay, so therefore I will be Volvagia in this fight. And the second thing is we're just going to confirm what we believe the results of this matchup to be are. Again, due to the specific actions that may happen, specifically in this matchup, the actual result that we give here may be different than the result that we give it. But the result we give it is the result that we believe would be for, you know, a substantive part of the time. So, without further ado, we're going to confirm amongst ourselves. But yeah. So,
Yes,
so
that is the exact number I would have given it.
okay, good. So, but yeah, whatever the case, that doesn't matter as much as the individual actions because this is definitely going to be a very interesting matchup. So, just going into it. I would say that both of these worlds teleport into one another. Volvagia does detect some form of presence, but doesn't necessarily know what's there due to how dark the Deku Tree is, and the fact that Goma is, effectively an ambush sort of creature. So, effectively on that, I'll give Volvagia first action, but it doesn't matter effectively. Volvagia is keeping on circling around their part of the arena effectively. Having an eye out on the strange parts at the other end, but not looking directly at Goma, of course, because Volvagia doesn't know. So then it goes to you.
Yes. Well, in essence, since Goma is currently in the shadowy bits and outside of Volvagia's sight, Goma would summon a single minion,
Okay.
or spawn would be the more accurate.
Mm. Okay, so Volvagia would effectively under this keep circling, keep effectively patrolling, keep going, well, something's off here. So noticing some sounds but not directly being able to pinpoint them. So it's back to you.
Then Goma would direct this single minion to go to the floor and start circling in an area below her.
Okay, got it. At this point, I believe that Volvagia would actually pick up on the single minion, but not directly. Um, I'm gonna say Volvagia needs some time to react, so I give it back to you.
Goma would lie in waiting.
Okay. Volvagia, seeing the faint changes specifically in the minion, would use Flame Breath on the area around the minion. I'm not sure how we'll rule this because I believe Volvagia would see and hear some outline and hear something, but it's basically in the minion's general vicinity. So, um, I'll give it to you whether the minion's killed or not, but whatever the case, there's fire breath in Goma's area.
I don't think the end result would change much depending on would the minion survive the flame or not.
Mm,
Since the flames
yeah.
do produce something very unwanted by Goma, which is
Mm,
the light.
yes. Um, so yeah. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I'm going to call it and say it's a miss at this point, but there would be a certain amount of light, and now Volvagia would see the shadow of Goma. So what does Goma do now?
Goma would have to start moving somewhere where the light is still not hitting.
Mm, okay. So then Volvagia, keeping in their area, by the way, would keep firing roughly in the vicinity of Goma, effectively. And what would you be doing?
That would put Goma into a very panicking state since
Mm,
now the usual sneaking is not proving effective, so it's breeding season.
mm. So Goma would be dropping more spawn effectively, creating
Yeah.
more minions. Okay. For this one, I'm going to assume this is an assumption. There is a chance that Volvagia would hit. I'm going to assume that Volvagia doesn't hit Goma. That Goma's far away enough that it doesn't do anything. Volvagia would still keep trying though. Effectively, and it goes back to you. Volvagia would notice these spawns, but at the time being, it's not enough time to react, if that makes sense.
So, and now, I don't think the numbers, how many minions are able to spawn here, would make that much of a difference. But the
Mm,
main idea is that since the fire keeps on coming, everybody scatter.
okay. Uh, so Volvagia would be choosing one of the minions, trying to look at it, decipher its form, and breathing fire on it. So Volvagia isn't focused on Goma now because I think what would be going on in Volvagia's head is that, you know, this monster is elusive. I'm going to be looking at the minions, seeing how the minions behave effectively. So that's what Volvagia is doing, trying to aim fire specifically on one of the minions.
Goma, seeing that this scatter tactic is working, would try to reassign and find if there is still some nook or cranny where the light doesn't go to, and try to
Okay.
go there.
Okay. Well, Volvagia, after destroying one of them, uh, I'm gonna say Volvagia goes after another one of them. Just because it's like, well, I understand. Volvagia is now understanding that, they are mortal, and easy to destroy, but just wants to confirm on that effectively. So Volvagia would go to another one, of course, staying in Volvagia's side, by the way, and then use Flame Breath on that effectively.
Yes.
So it's on you.
Yeah. Now that seeing that the minions are just totally outclassed, they aren't getting anywhere near their target.
Mm,
Goma getting into that some random crevice of the Deku tree that is still in shadows would just have to close down the eye and hope to remain hidden and hope that the remaining minions would, distract Volvakia enough that maybe Volvakia thinks that after they are dead, the fight
okay.
is over.
Yeah, I see that. Then is it okay if I speed up time?
Yes.
Effectively. Volvagia decides that it is better to be killing off the minions rather than going after Goma. Volvagia has seen Goma. So both minion, well, not both, but whatever minions are there will be destroyed by Volvagia. But Volvagia keeps sort of blowing fire, seeing a sort of residual image of Goma, but never really being able to land a hit because Goma is quite good at stealth effectively. That's how I'd rule it. Tell me if there's any problem with that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so what Volvagia would do then, and it would be after quite some time, Volvagia would get a bit restless. Volvagia would go further and further into Goma's side because Volvagia has to, and Volvagia is proud, would not want to run away from this fight or accept, another being living in, well, their temple effectively. So Volvagia is now moving, not necessarily towards Goma, but, further in Goma's side.
Well, Goma knowing that they in essence cannot escape this situation. They cannot attack a flying creature on their own. They just have to lie in wait and hope that Wolbachia just happens to come near enough to her.
Mm. And I think that's what needs to be granted. After some time, Volvagia. Now, just to clarify, I personally believe Volvagia would have some knowledge of Goma, where Goma is. That's what Volvagia's plan is. So, so Volvagia would get close enough towards Goma, knowing that Goma was somewhat close, but never really being able to get a hit because Volvagia isn't close enough and Goma is secluded. You get what I say, so it's on to you basically now.
So, waiting until the very last moment that Goma would assume that she has, she would then leap and try to land on Volvakia from the ceiling.
And, well, I'm going to give the highest percentage chance on this one. So again, we can dispute this. Goma hits, but Goma does not hit anything critical. And yeah. So I would say that Goma doesn't keep on Volvagia just due to sheer size of Goma effectively and how how easily Volvagia can maneuver around things. But yeah, I'd say that's a success and that Volvagia does receive some damage. Probably quite major damage depending where it hits. And at this point, Goma, in some scenarios, Goma could have won this just outright. Just to clarify, but we're going with the most likely scenario. So yeah, that's Goma's thing. And then, of course, well, Volvagia looks down, sees Goma dead square in the eyes on the floor. What does Goma do?
Goma's only option is now to try to skid away fast as possible.
Okay. Volvagia puts the fire breath against Goma, knowing that it's worked so well against the minions before.
And there is nothing much Goma can do about that.
Yeah. So are we happy calling it now?
Yes.
So the winner in this one is Volvagia. And this was a fun fight because effectively, well, how do we want to start with everything in this fight? Kat, you have the floor.
Yeah. So Goma, being a very intelligent ambush predator, did have a good shot at like the win here, and in some occasions would. But Goma is still not an omniscient, nor Goma is a traveled being, so Goma would not have any knowledge of Volvakia. So Goma would not inherently know weaknesses of Volvakia. Plus,
Yes.
Goma really relying on the darkness for their ambushes since they lack any sort of webbing or other trapping abilities.
Mm.
Is very bad against flames that just remove that darkness.
Yeah. Exactly. The difference here between the two characters, it was twofold really. Volvagia, just going back to it, the comparison was it wasn't intelligence this time. It was two things that made up for this intelligence boost that Goma had. The first thing was mobility. Goma has a mobility A, is really good, can get to most places, can even get to Volvagia under certain situations. But Volvagia has that mobility S. Whatever way that Goma would have tried to ambush Volvagia, most of the time, I will say most of the time because Goma is a brilliant ambush predator, but most of the time Volvagia would have dodged to make it non-lethal. I technically didn't say it in the fight because I was dealing with a lot of calculations in my head, but most of the time it would be non-lethal just due to the fact that Volvagia can have that split second sort of maneuverability effectively due to flight. The second thing that Volvagia had is right here, is that flame breath. Sadly, Goma is really good with regards to, well, her intelligence and her effective abilities. But the flame breath was just too much for the abilities that Goma specifically possessed. It wasn't the fact that it was B, although that was a lot in itself. It was also the fact that, exactly as Kat said, the fire illuminates and effectively gets rid of any cover that Goma might very well have. But yeah, there were just so many factors in this fight. That's why I've been really interested and hyped to be talking about this boss battle, honestly. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about it?
I would see that if Volvagia's intelligence stat would be lowered by 2, it would be pretty much Goma winning every time.
Mm.
Volvagia having that movement and enough intelligence to not just flat out go into the trap and dying immediately
Yeah. I mean,
really gives the stats on Volvagia's side even more.
Yeah, to clarify, Volvagia's boosts of having Flame Breath, effectively, and having higher mobility by 1 stat, that's what it took to counter that Intelligence A stat at the end of the day. That's what it took. Like, intelligence is very powerful amongst these bosses, but yeah, without saying anything else, our winner is Volvagia. But yeah, definitely a very interesting matchup. Now, I know I did say round 8 on this. I should have said round 8 and 9. But yeah, well, round 9 is shortly for those effectively seeing live. This is the end of round 8, and we're gonna give some time between the two. So yeah, give it about sort of 20 seconds here, okay?